Peace, peace. Tasha, so, and I'm going to read this off. This is North American Indian timeline, 1492 to 1990. I will not be reading everything. I'm going to go from 1492 and probably skip to like the 1600s and get like closer to the stuff that we recognize. A lot of this history is something that, I mean, I seen some of this stuff somewhere, but I'm not savvy on it, so I'm not even going to try to touch on it or whatever. But if it's something that relates to what we're talking about, I'm gonna definitely say something about it. So let's get with it. So the first one is say from 1492. We know a lot of stuff about Columbus, but every time I read something different. And you know, from this I got that a lot of people say that there was no Indian slave. We know that they did take Indian slaves throughout Europe and Spain, but other people need to read this. Alright, and understand that, because they don't know that they was taking people from here to France and to other countries. But when you look in these other countries, you don't see no Mongoloid Indian looking people in none of these countries. You see Negroes. So let's start right here in 1492. They say from the nakedness Columbus inferred that the native people to be an inferior race. Columbus wrote of the Indians he encountered. They say they go all around as naked as their mother bore them. They say, and also the women. However, he noted that they can easily be commanded to and made to work and sew and to do whatever might be needed. They say to build towns and be taught to wear clothes and adapt to ways. Although Columbus also wrote that they are the best people in the world and above all the gentlest, they say he record of the first encounter between the Europeans and the New World Indians was filled with accounts of enslavement, murder, and rape. Alright, so now I'm gonna just touch back on this part, because a lot of people say that the Native Americans, or the people we assume, which we, listen, when I say Native American, we talk the real Native American, we talk about Aboriginal. We know Native Americans now, these white people mixed with Mongoloid. So let me just separate that right now. The real Native Americans are not Native Americans, but yet they Aboriginal, copper colored people. The people they show us now as Native Americans are actually Europeans. I don't even know. I don't want to say $5 Indians. All right, put like that. And Mongoloids that they found in the late 1800s. All right, so the real Native Americans are Aborigines. Then they're not Native Americans, but they are named Aborigine, copper color races, according to the 1828 definition of the word American. All right, so they say, however, he noted that they could easily be commanded and made to work, to sow and to do whatever might be needed. To build towns. Now it say to build towns. Think about this shit. Who built America? All right, and be taught to wear clothes and adapt our ways. It say, although Columbus also wrote, I ain't gonna get back into that, but we get the picture. All right, you see that he's saying that these people could be slaves. All right, so I'm not gonna touch on none of this stuff right here. I'm gonna read. Matter of fact, I'm gonna touch on 1524 just to give you another instance of how they was taking people from here to other countries. All right, so on July 8th, the first kidnapping in America took place. When 14 explorers kidnapped an Indian child to bring to France. Okay, that's in, it said 1524. So they was taking people back to these countries. And the thing about this is, when you look in these countries, you don't see no Native Americans there. You don't even see no. Only places you see Spanish people is in South America. You don't see them nowhere else, or people who look, because you look, okay, the Mongoloid people look like some of the South American people, or the so-called Mexicans, and some of them like that, some of the El Salvadorians, and some of them, okay, they all look alike. And it's hard, like sometimes you see some of them, they look just like these so-called Native Americans, with that same, got them same Mongoloid traits and them same Chinese and Asian features. All right. So, but what I'm trying to say is, you don't see none of them people in France. You see black people in France that they telling you that they got from Africa, when they actually was bringing people from America to Europe, and it tells you right here. All right. So that was the first one right there. So I'm gonna go all the way down and get to the 1600s. Alright. Um, I say Europeans of the time had steadfast to the belief that introduced diseases were the act of God being done in their behalf. One settler proclaimed while speaking about the deaths of Native Americans that their enterprise fell, for it pleased God to affect these Indians with such deadly sicknesses. Out of every 1,000, over 950 of them died, saying many of them lay rotting above the ground for lack of burial. Wow, you hear that shit, man? We hear the side that, and that's in the 1600s. So basically, what they were saying that before we get to North America, they was already committing genocide. So now think of it like this, right? What they saying is, like in a lot of them countries, because before they came here, well, I don't want to say before they came here, because we do know Verrazano, Herman de Santos, and a lot of them other ones came here before Captain John Smith. Before we start this continuing colonists coming over here, or the continuous British coming over here, taking the land from the people. Before it was just small voyages that led over here, and they were just wiping people off or whatever. But that's in the 1600s. That's before the story of Jamestown. Alright, so 1607, they say Jamestown is founded in Virginia by colonists of London, of the London Company. Alright, so London Company, what do you think the London Company is? We talked about this before. We know the London is British, Britain, all that's the fucking same. Okay, when you talk about the Queen of London or Queen of Britain or whatever, it's the same thing. They say by the end of the year, starvation and disease reduced the original 105 settlers to just 32 survivors. Captain John Smith was captured by Native Americans, Chief Powhatan, and saved from the death. No, it says saved from the death by his daughter Pocahontas. That's bullshit. He kidnapped her, and they came back, and then they went to war. Alright, so on July 3rd, Indian brought maize, beans, squash, and fresh smoked meats to Jamestown Colony. They're saying the Jamestown Colony as the Plymouth. Years later, the colonists and the disease will eventually exterminate them. Wow. See? And I read that. I'm just going over some additional. I'm just going to touch through the timeline, like I said, to see what we see, or what I see, or what you may see, and what you may help me with, or help yourself with. All right. Now I say in 1611, say former Dutch lawyer Adrian Block explored Manhattan Island. They say in a ship Tiger. They say he returned to Europe with a cargo of furs and kidnapped, you know, and say and two kidnapped Indians. They say whom named Orson and Valentine. Look, man, see, they was kidnapping people. So I'm trying to tell y'all. And that's the reason why you see these images of them calling them blackamoors. Now, when you get to the, no, I ain't gonna look for it right now. But y'all already seen the images. I showed y'all a couple times. Some of you got the pictures of it already. Alright, so it says 1660. It's a smallpox epidemic decimates the Native American population in New England. It's saying May, Virginia deputy. It's saying May, Virginia deputy Governor George Yearly saying a group of men killed 20 or 40 Chickahominy Indians, and what it was under Yearly leadership that friendly relations between the Chickahominy and the colony ended. Okay, so say 1621, one of the first treaties between the colonists and Native Americans signed. The Plymouth Pilgrims enact a peaceful pact with the Wapanaki tribe, and say with AIDS, Squanto, and English-speaking Native Americans. Now, you know Squanto was kidnapped prior, and they brought him back. Y'all all know that. All right. So it say 1626. Peter Minute, a Dutch colonist, buys Manhattan Island from Native Americans for 60 gliders. They say about $24. They say and name the island New Amsterdam. All right, so we know that that didn't happen that way. We know that they did not sell the land or whatever. So you know, you hear old dirty bastard talking about that, and what is the name of the tribe, man? The brothers just were talking about it the other day on the video. Start with the S. Damn, I can't think of the name. It's gonna come to me. When it comes to me, I'm just gonna revisit that. All right. So in 1637. So that's why I wanted to move up to the 1600s, because this is when you get all this activity here in this country. So this is when you can start really getting a proper understanding right here, because this you'll look at this article and just say, oh, this is some regular stuff. But to those of us who've been doing the research, when we read this, we know what to look for, and we get a proper understanding of further things that, you know what I'm saying, like things that I'm still trying to figure out right now. Okay, so it's saying 1637. It's saying the colony of Massachusetts, the Pequot Indians were the first slave, but as they would not endure the yoke, they were sent to Bahamas. And that's why I just was talking about this right here, what I read, because I did read through some of it. It said they were sent to Bahamas in exchange for Negroes in hope that they would later bear slavery more patiently. Say the first exchange of Indians for Negroes was made in 1637, the first year of the Pequot War, and was doubtless kept up for many years. Now look, now I'm gonna keep on reading though, but look, I'm gonna touch on that. Now remember what Columbus said. Columbus said they can easily be enslaved. So they didn't kill all them people. They took them people back to Europe, came back and enslaved them people. And look, it said it was sent to Bahamas. This is in 1637. So by that time, they was already established stuff, because what I think is they started along in the Caribbean first. Then they started working along the shorelines, because they was working like they come and ride along the shorelines. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if they was, I don't know how they was coming from Europe. I think that maybe like Kerry Davis said that they was coming along the top, but how would they reach the Caribbeans would be a whole nother different story. They would have to either come across from Africa and supposedly make it somehow, or you know what I'm saying, or you know, I mean, it's a lot to think about when we talk about that. So it's on May 26, Captain John Mason and John Underhill attacked and burnt Pequot forts at Mystic, Connecticut, massacring 600 Indians and starting a Pequot War. Let me get some water, fellas. I mean, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, so I like this because this is a timeline and give me something. I mean, a lot of us already touched on a lot of the history part, and it's just touching on additionally stuff just to show people that they did have, it was Indian slaves. Now we just read what Columbus said. Columbus said the people was easily he could easily enslave them in the Caribbean. If he came to what we call Haiti, okay, he went to Haiti, he went to all them other islands, Bermuda, Bahamas. That's why I say they were sent to Bermuda in exchange for Negroes. Okay, they're not telling you that the Indians was Negroes too. You understand? So now I tell you right here how the Pequot War was started in New England, whatever. So let's keep it moving. Say 1639, Captain William Pierce, it said Salem, Massachusetts, sailed to the West Indies and exchanged Indian slaves for black slaves. See, how was I thought the Indians could not be enslaved? See, all they was doing was moving them back and forth. You know what I'm saying? It's telling you right there in this little sentence. I don't have to read through no books. We don't have to get none of this other stuff. We already understand. Do the research on it, the additional research, all right? So, 1675 through 1676, Captain Phillip War erupt in New England between the colonists and Native Americans as a result of tension over colonist expansionist activities. The bloody war rages up and down the Connecticut River. See, up and down the Connecticut River, because that's the further they can go. That's why they had dogs to go inland. But as far as the river, they was using, they had cannons and stuff on that shit. It say the Connecticut River Valley in Massachusetts and in the Plymouth and Rhode Island colonies. It say eventually resulting of 600 English colonists killed. Now England, London, and Britain, all that shit is the fucking same, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? They just different parts, but they always they was always in Britain. Britain at that point in time, Britain was in charge. Britain is London. Okay, say English colony being killed, and it said 3,000 natives, including, now more natives are always killed. Let me say this. It said including women, children on both sides. King Philip and the colonists nickname of Metacomet, chief of the Wampanoag. It says hunted down, killed on August 12, 1676 in the swamps in Rhode Island, ending the war in southern New England and ending the independence. See, it said ending the war. See, when they killed, he said when he killed the chief, that ended the war, because now the people just fell under their subdue to do whatever they wanted to do. It said ending independent power of Native Americans there. It said in New Hampshire and Maine and Soco Indian continue to raid settlements. It said another year and a half. And I'm sorry, my bad. My fucking Syrian just keep going off, man. By itself, I don't know why I keep doing that. Probably my phone probably tap. It say for another year and a half. All right. 1730, 1670, Bacon's rebellion. Tobacco planters led by Nathan Beacon asked for and are denied permission to attack the Hockenok. I can't pronounce that. I'm sorry, y'all. Indians who have been conducting raids and colonist settlements engaged at Governor Berkeley's refusal. The colonists burnt Jamestown and killed many Indians before the order is restored in October. See, that was another see Bacon's rebellion. Alright. That's something else. There's a lot of stuff in here. I can just find me some stuff to do, like certain videos on. A lot of stuff is interesting stuff. 1690. The beginning of King William's War and hostile. They say in Europe between the French and the English spilled over to the colonies in February. I can't pronounce that word. New York is burnt. That's a part of New York, I guess, is burnt, and the French with the aid of their Native American allies. So it's saying that the Native Americans and the French was allying. I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, if they say so. 1702, French explorers Pierre Lat, you say, had a 4-year sojourn in Chicago area, during which he noticed that the sin of sodomy prevailed among the Miami Indians, and then some men were bred from childhood for this purpose. So I guess he was saying that his men, he's saying which he noticed that the sin of sodomy, and say prevail among the alright, so I don't know if they saying it like as far as the Native Americans, or either them or the Native Americans commit sodomy with one another. Alright, so it says 1704 said on June 23rd, former governor of South Carolina, James Moore, led a force of 50 British and 1,000 Creek Indians against the Spanish settlement. They attacked a mission. Now this is, hold on, let me stop for a minute, man. Now when you see this is the funny shit. It say on, now this is in 1704, and you telling me at that point in time they already had governors? So in 1704, on June 23rd, former governor, or it said former governor, damn, so how long was he out the office? It said former governor of South Carolina, James Moore, led a force of 50 British. So it say 50, hold up. Now they using the word British now. So now they in exchanging the British with the colonists. or whatever, like, you know what I'm saying, because it get confusing when you read. The British are the Europeans, all these Europeans are all in the same, they all in the same bed to take the land. So it said led a force of 50 British and 1,000 Creek Indians against the Spanish settlement. They attacked a mission in northwest Florida. They took many Indians as slaves and killed Father Manuel de Mendoza. Okay, so they took many Indians as slaves, okay, in South Carolina, okay? So remember, check this out. I mean, I guess if you want to say this, because I did believe that Florida was part of Carolina at some point in time. Maybe I'm wrong about that. You know what I'm saying? I did try to do some further research, but a lot of this stuff right here takes a lot of your time. I gotta really take time to do some further research on it, but I'm not, don't quote me on that, okay? But I'm thinking that all that was connected, because we know that Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, all that was one part, one land. I mean, this is what I'm thinking. Again, don't quote me on that. You know what I'm saying? Until I do further research on it, until I can state that it's clear. All right, but yeah, I mean, so where do they bring them slaves back? Where do they bring all these Indian slaves back? The Creek Indians against the Spanish settlement. And so they attacked the mission in northwest Florida. They took many Indians as slaves and killed Father Manuel de Mendoza. All right, so the Indians they was taking as slaves, what was they doing with them? You understand? What was they doing with them? Was they killing them? Was they raping them? Was they mistreating? What were they doing? Was they prisoners of war? What was they doing? All right, 1709. It say slave market was erected. It say at the foot of Wall Street, and here Negroes and Indian men, women, and children were daily declared as property of the highest cash bidder. Okay, now that's why I wanted to read through a lot of this stuff, man, because this is stating stuff that they denying, that a lot of people was denying. So, all right, so let me read this again. 1709, a slave market was erected at the foot of Wall Street, and here Negroes and Indians, okay? So where was they bringing the Indians from? I mean, that's the confusing part. Like, where was they bringing these Indians from? Or was they both the same people? Why they keep on changing them up, you know what I'm saying? Changing the names of them. Oh, that's an Indian, that's a Negro, or whatever. So, I mean, that's, like I said, a lot of stuff is confusing, because, all right, they not saying, they saying here Negroes was traded, right? But they're not saying where the Negroes came from, which they gonna tell us either Africa or the Caribbean. But if the Negroes came from Caribbeans, wouldn't they be called a tribe that they came from in Africa or something like that? And where were the Indians being bought? They was being captured around here and then took to Wall Street to be sold as slaves, and then shipped probably around the world to the Caribbean, or even stayed here. All right. So 1711, it say hostile break out between Native Americans settling in North Carolina after a massacre of settlers there. The conflict known as the Tuscarora Indian War will last 2 years. 1755. I'll back up, man. My eyes are starting to bother. 1715. Yamasee tribe attacked and killed several hundred Carolina settlers. Okay. 1760, South Carolina settlers and their Cherokee allies attack and defeat the Yamasee. Okay, so hold up. So it said it's 1760, South Carolina settlers, and see that this is what was going on, man. I mean, because a lot of this research, this is what I keep finding out, that, you know, everybody, and, you know, with all due respect, man, the people who do research or whatever, a lot of people keep talking about the Moors sold us out and all that. As you see in this research, these people are not Moors. The South Carolina settlers and their Cherokee, which is, I believe, is one of the 5 civilized tribes, say allies, attacked and defeated the Yamasee. And I also believe that the Yamasee is a tribe. Okay? Alright? Oh shit. 1721. Let me read this one. Jesuit explorer Pierre Francis Xavier de Charles a whatever recorded that effeminacy and widespread homosexual and lesbian among the Indian tribes in what is known as now Louisiana. The most prominent tribes in the area at that time were the Iroquois and the Illinois. Nah, that shit just fucked me up. Sorry, y'all. Damn, that's. Let me read that again, yo. 1721. Jesuit explorer. Let me write this shit down, man, because I gotta do some research on this shit. Hold on for a minute, man. That shit just fucked my whole groove up, y'all. Damn. Let me do some research. Hold up. Damn. I'm just jogging this down real quick, y'all. I gotta look this up, man, just to make sure that this, cause like I said, I'm just winging it. You know, I'm not doing no sources or nothing, because, you know, some of the stuff we could pick up off of. I just mainly picked it because of the, because it was basically saying that Indians took in slaves, because they tell you that an Indian cannot be a slave, that they will kill, an Indian would rather be killed than be a slave. This is what they tell you. Or Indian would rather be killed than be a slave. All these stories telling about these Indians were slaves, man. Alright, now I'm gonna read this one more time. Say Jesuit explorer Pierre Francis Xavier de Charles Vin, whatever, they say recorded effeminacy and widespread homosexual and lesbian among the Indian tribes in what is known as what is now Louisiana. The prominent tribes in the area at the time was the Iroquois and Illinois. Wow. Damn, that shit fucked me up when I first read that. Wow. So they was practicing this stuff. So the Europeans brought over their practices. And you see, it's saying now what called Louisiana, because in Louisiana during the Mardi Gras they be doing all these freak practices and all that shit or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with the people who came there, because we do know that the Spaniards and all these, I mean, well, actually it was just the Spaniards and the French that came to Louisiana or whatever. So, I mean, look, man, there you have it right there. Do some research on that name right there, Pierre Francis Xavier D, whatever his last name is. Definitely do some research on that. In 1725, say 10 sleeping Indians were scalped by whites in New Hampshire for a bounty. So they have bounty on so-called Aborigines. See? So when we use the term Indian, we know that they were Aborigines because the word American is originally applied to the Aborigines or copper-colored races, and that was in 1828. So we know at this point in time they was calling these people Aborigines. So another one, 1745, said upon the hearing repeating French and Indian attack upon the Ulster County frontier, European massacres, several Indian families in their wigwams at Walden in the Hudson River Valley. The French and Indian attack. So the French and the Indians, I gotta do some research on that too, man. I mean, let me jot that down too. Gotta do some further research on that. Alright. 1752. They say in the 1752 census, 147 Indian slaves, 87 females, and 60 males was listed as living in French households in what would later be called Illinois. They say these people were from a different culture group than the Native American population, and they were often captured. They were also captive of war. Now look, it say, hold up. Now, check this out. Let's read this again. All right, so 1752. Say in 1752, the census. 147 Indian slaves, 87 females and 60 males were listed as living in the French household in what would later be called Illinois. These people were from different cultural groups than the local Native American population, and were often captives of war. So I'm saying, man, a lot of this stuff is research within its own. Like, you can do independent, I mean, yeah, well, you can do basically independent research on all these different articles, because most of these probably got research that could stand alone, to where, you know what I'm saying, if you was to really do the research on that, you probably get a couple of pages worth of literature out of it. So 1754, it's saying on April 9th, the Indian slave traders sent a letter to South Carolina Governor J. Glenn asking for permission to use one of the Indians to fight another. Say, we want no pay. They say only what we can take and plunder, okay, and what slaves we take to be our own. Check that out right there. Let's read that again. All right, so now look, think of it like this, right? Now, where was the Cherokee at? When was the Trail of Tears? The Trail of Tears was in 1835, right? I believe it was in 1835 to 1851 or something like that. 1831 is when it started. All right, so we did the video yesterday, and you know it started around there. Right? So think of this, right? We know that Cherokee Nation with all South Carolina, all North Carolina, all Georgia region, Tennessee region, all of that was theirs, right? So it's saying that in 1754, on April 9th, an Indian slave trader sent a letter to South Carolina Governor J. Glenn asking for permission to use one group of Indians, okay, to fight another. We want no pay, only what we can take and plunder, and what slaves we can take to be our own. Okay, so like I said, man, it was a lot of stuff going on here. A lot of people don't know. The story is so misconstrued to where people don't even know. A lot of these slaves that did come here that were so-called African was fucking Moors. You know what I'm saying? The Moors that was captured in Europe. Yeah, and it was Moors that was bringing them over here too. It was Moors that was bringing Moors here as well. But here you had so-called Aborigines that was helping enslaving other Aborigines here. All right, and then that can definitely be proven and throughout reading stuff like this. You know what I'm saying? And I believe it because this is stuff that they normally hide when they put inside articles. This is stuff that they said, they told us that didn't happen. You understand? Oh, the Indian would never be a slave. What? It's telling you that the Indians were slaves. We know that the Indians was took back to Europe. You know what I'm saying? All right, so 1756, you know, April 8th, Governor Robertson. They had governors and shit. Like, I mean, I'm not surprised because they had courts and stuff I mean, maybe a century before that. I mean, well, they had courts and stuff long time ago, but I'm just surprised that at that point in time, like, that they still had, like, they had governors and shit. I mean, I don't know. It said on April 8th, Governor Robert Morris declared war on the Delaware and Shawnee Indians. Included his war declaration was the Scout Act. It said, which put a bounty on the scalp of Indian men, women, and boys. Man, look at this savage shit, man. You hear this, man? Governor Robert Morris, a fucking foreigner from Europe, declared war against the indigenous people of that land, and he did a Scout Act against them and their family and their women. You said this is the type of shit that took place, that, like, this is the ill reality of reading this, man. Alright, 1758. On August 1st, the first Indian reservation in North America was established by the New Colony Assembly. Okay? Let me read this one more time. It's on August 1st, the first Indian reservation in North America was established by the New Jersey Colony Assembly. Wow. Look, 1758. 1758. On August 1st, the first Indian reservation in North America was established by the New Jersey Colony Assembly. Okay? Let me read this one more time. It's on August 1st, the first Indian reservation in North America was established by the New Jersey Colony Assembly. Wow. Look. Alright, let me just skim through some of this. See what I can get. Alright, let me read this one right here. 1763. In May, the Ottawa Native American under Chief Pontiac began all-out warfare against the British west of Niagara. It said destroying several British forts and conducting a siege against the British at Detroit in August. Pontiac, Pontiac, Detroit. Alright, it say Pontiac forces are defeated by the British near Pittsburgh. They went all the way down near Pittsburgh. The siege of Detroit in November, but hostile between the British and Chief Pontiac continued for 7 years. The proclamation of 1763, signed by King George III of England, prohibits any English settlement west of the Appalachian Mountains and required those already settled in those regions to return east in attempt to ease tension with Native Americans. It's an indication of the basic racism inherent in the use of violence by colonial whites could be found in a notorious unpacking boys. Hold up. Let's see, found the notorious I'm just jogging some of the stuff down as I'm reading through it. Alright, 1763, the group of the frontier thugs. The group of the frontier thugs, okay? It say did not hesitate to kill a dozen friendly Christian Indians. Christian Indians. So at that point in time, they was already colonized. When once you're a Christian and once you speak in English and your last name is an English name, you are no longer indigenous. And this is what a lot of these fake Indians are trying to tell us that got names just like us. But they're telling us that we're not Indians, but you are. So you kept your tradition, but you got a European name. Get the fuck out of here. You understand? And this is what we don't get. We let these people, because they walk around. I got a war bonnet too. You understand what I'm saying? You know, and they walk around with war bonnet and some Native American gear that we think is what they wore. Then we say, oh, they got their tradition or whatever. If you really had your tradition, you would be living in the house. You'll be living in wherever you was living in that point in time. So these people who be telling you, oh, they got so much tribal connections are full of shit. Okay, but they telling you, oh, you don't have no tribal connection. That's why you can't be into it. But they barely got tribal connections. Most of these people, family was classified as Negroes. But they saying, because, I mean, it's just confusing, man. And like I said, man, this is just the first step. But like I said, along this journey, it's going to be people who going to find out otherwise. Because, look, I'm going to put y'all on something right here, right? See this? This is a list of free Negro slave owners, all right? Now, we know it probably was more, but this in the United States at 1830. Look, there's thousands and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them. You understand? Let me see. Look, there's thousands of them. So I'm gonna get into this next, okay? But I'm just wanted to give y'all just a brief study. It's Maryland. Look, Maryland. I'm probably gonna do the states that the Cherokees was in to try to get some of the freemen over with. But you look, these are all so-called Negroes, and I'm gonna get a chance. I'm gonna do a video on it, and I'm gonna read everything from the beginning to give y'all an understanding. It's definitely some good information. Somebody want to go ahead and do some study on it, go ahead. It's called Free Negro Owners and Slaves in the United States in 1830. Remember, the Trail of Tears was in 1831. I'm sticking around some of that right there because I'm trying to build a case on that. All right, so let me get back to what I was saying. All right, here we go. All right, so it said the Paxton boys mostly beat their victims to death. It say though they did not scramble. It say in using axes. It say they did not scramble at using axes. It say yet when they marched on Philadelphia to press, they claim they press their claims for more funding and armed for war against the Indians. They were met with an armed militia, and their forces melted away. Only some 250 Paxton boys remained, and they were intelligently outnumbered by Benjamin Franklin, who offered these white savages a face saving out. They say the Western insurgent presented a pro-murder petition to the legislation, an amazing exercise in projection that argued that Indians should be killed because they were prone to massacre innocents. They say to the point is again that this white rebel contended themselves with a pretension and then went home. The legislature ignored their drive. I don't know how to flip that L on the end of it, but say in brief, then personal violence in colonial America appeared to have been reserved for displeased races. Now that shows you something, how they had these militias. So look, man, look, they go around killing people, axing people down, man. The purge. So on December 8th, the organization compensating settlers for losing resulting for Indian raids was created by the Indian Commission and Sir William Johnson. So on December 27th, a troop of 50 armed men entered the workhouse at Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and hacked to death the only 14 surviving Conestoga Indians. You see, the rest of the tribe has been similarly dispensed within 13 days earlier. Wow. And they went back and killed them. You hear that shit? They went back and killed them, yo. Wow. Let me see something. Yeah, you see that, man? Wow. 1775. It's a forced labor in the mission fields and worship according to the minister. Look, man, I'm laughing at some of this stuff because as I'm reading it, I'm thinking about stuff that I read and how they said that we're going to put them under perpetual servitude. And this is what I'm reading and this is what I'm seeing. All right? So it's a missionary teaching. The Indians at San Diego rebelled against the Spanish, burning every building and killing most of the inhabitants, including the mission head priest. It's a thanks to a Spanish sharpshooter. The Indians were finally driven off the Spanish. Retained control of their outposts. Wow. They said they rejected that shit. Said, man, you don't get that white Jesus Christ out of here. All right, let me see. Let me read 1776. On July 21st, the Cherokee Indians attacked settlement in western North Carolina. Militias forced to retaliate by destroying a nearby Cherokee village. 1772, 1780. It's a 4 out of 5 of the Akira died of smallpox. Let me write that down. I never heard of that tribe. See, a lot of this stuff is familiar. I mean, some of the stuff is familiar, like as far as like the stuff that was going on in the certain tribes, but some of the stuff I'm learning as I'm reading. You know, like I said, I don't know everything, and this stuff, like I just happened to want to start doing these videos because I had some information that I started putting together, like with them pictures or whatever though. But I had a lot of literature on this, man, and my other computer went down. I got the hard drive, but I gotta get it. I gotta actually take it back to my computer, man. So we gotta do some adjustment to it. It won't work. But nonetheless, though, yeah, I got a lot of literature on this computer right here. But it takes a lot of time to read this. And a lot of time, like I gotta sit here and rehearse it because, like I said, a lot of time when I read from this computer screen, I make a lot of errors, like as far as I'm reading it because of the computer screen. And then if the font is crazy, If the font crazy, then I'm definitely gonna have problems reading it sometime. Like, cause my eyes is like my eyes is going bad from reading from this computer every day. Like, you know what I'm saying, working on a computer. That's why a lot of people got wear glasses that got computers, man. You know what I'm saying? Because over time, the computer, the light keep on like dimming. Like right now, my eyes are so bright, and I'm rubbing them and everything. But nonetheless, so I'm gonna get through with this. All right, we're gonna get all the way to the 1800s, and if not the 1900s. All right, so 1781, say smallpox wiped out more than half of the Piegan Blackfoot. Now they got a lot of different names for a lot of these different tribes that we never heard of. All right, so let me see, 1786. It's saying on July 13th, the Northwest Ordinance was enacted, stating that the utmost God faith shall always be observed towards the Indians in their property rights and the liberty. They shall never be disturbed. Yeah, all right. We know we know all these treaties, all these promises was lies. The federal treaty enact with the Delaware Indians. Say in 1789, the Indian Commerce Clause of the Constitution is added, stating that Congress shall have power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states with the Indian tribes. And this clause is generally seen as the principal basic for federal government board power over the Indians. Wow, yo man, after reading this shit, they did so many tricks and things to declassify you and to say, oh, well, we'll take care of that. We'll handle that for you. Don't worry about it. And then do some backstabbing, conniving shit you know what I'm saying? And this is, when you read it, you see the scheming and the connivingness, man. You see it. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, some people say otherwise. Oh, these was people who bought you food and we made, you know, so even after reading listen, okay, after reading this paragraph or this passage itself and all these different paragraphs and timelines and history, there should be no holidays celebrating no so-called colonists coming here being friends with the Indians. Should be no Columbus Day. There should Thanksgiving. If you want to make a Thanksgiving, don't say it has nothing to do with no damn pilgrims. Because once you throw the pilgrims in it, you got to read back to this right here. Read back to all the things that all of these, they showing you what the colonists was doing to the so-called native or the Aborigines. They showing you right here, man. So, like I said, man, 1790, the Indian Trade and Intercourse Act is passed, placing nearly all interactions between Indians and non-Indians under federal rather than state control. Establish the boundaries of Indian country, protect the Indian land against non-Indian aggressive, subjecting trading with Indians and federal regulations and stipulations that injury against Indians by non-Indians was a federal crime. The conduct of Indians amongst themselves while Indian country was left entirely to the tribe. These acts were renewed periodically until 1834. Okay. It's a military battle between the United States Army and Shawnee and Shawnee. It say the Army, some 1,500 strong, invaded Shawnee territory in what is now western Ohio. The Americans were defeated in 1790 after suffering 900 casualties and 600 of whom died. Now, my thing is this, right? I'm reading this, right? So who are the Americans? Why are the people here that's on this land Americans? Why would the Europeans be the Americans? All right. It said on March 1st, the first United States citizen county included slaves and free Negroes. Indians were not included. Hold up. March 1st, the first U.S. citizen county included slaves and free Negroes. Indians were not included. So that's this right here, y'all. Just to let y'all know, I'll be up on my shit. Like, that's actually this right here. That's actually this right here. Well, this is around that time. Let me see what year that was. Hold up. Oh yeah, alright, so that was it. So that was around the same time. That's actually a couple years earlier. But this shows you a lot. This shows you a lot of that stuff too, man. Like, let me just show you a little. For those of y'all who, I know a lot of y'all already got a lot of this information, but see, a lot of this stuff is research within itself, and then it's telling you. Like, I just wanted to show you some of the categories that they got. Like the heads of the family, and how many of you see right there at the top right there, it say white and black, which I'm still trying to kind of figure this out correctly, because I see white and black on the side. It's not telling me exactly how it's the heads of family say white and black or whatever. I don't know if it's saying white and black slave, white. I'm trying to read it to do some more research on this, because I don't completely understand it at this point in time. But they got a lot of different categories, man. I just wanted to show y'all some of them. See, when they got free white person, free white man, free white women. They got a lot of different stuff on here, and then it's a free other persons or whatever. So it's speculating. But at this point in time, we already know that it was free men. Now we need to do some further research to really get it. All right. So it's on. Oh, I read that. It's a trading between Native Americans and French and Spanish merchants from St. Louis and Missouri. It's on 1792. On November 6th, George Washington, in his 4th annual address to Congress, expressed dissatisfaction that the Indian hostiles had not stopped in the young country frontier north of the Ohio River. So they saying that they have it north of the Ohio River. Alright, so I'm gonna do some research on that north of the Ohio River, saying that they were still wilding. Alright, so 1795, the Treaty of Greenville. The treaty marked the end of an undeclared and multi-tribe war begun in the late 1770s, and led by the Shawnees, who fought to resist American expansion into Ohio in 1795. Say over 1,000 Indians. Hold up. Let me go back right here. Okay, nah. Sorry about that, y'all. I was trying to mix. I thought I seen something new. All right. So the treaties mark the end of the undeclared and multi-tribal war began in the late 1770s, and led by the Shawnee, who resisted the American expansion in Ohio. In 1795, over 1,000 Indian delegates co-ceded 2/3 of present-day Ohio, part of the Indiana, and the sites where the modern sites of Detroit, Toledo, and Chicago are currently situated. Say the Indians in return were promised and permitted boundary between their lands and American territory. Wow! So they telling them what they can do on their own land. 1802, federal law prohibits the sale of liquor to Indians. So why would they prohibit the sale of liquor to Indians? Alright, it's in 1803. It said Louisiana purchased as the United States French territory from the Gulf of Mexico to the northwest. It said Lewis Clark expedition began the exploration of the West. Alright, so what it's saying is that it's saying so basically, I understand a lot of shit that was going on. Now, I don't understand some of the stuff, like when you pretty much just rambling through it, because it's puzzles. This is like one giant freaking puzzle. You understand what I'm saying? Like I said, the first puzzle was just realizing that you are Aboriginal. All these other puzzles and twists and turns come into play when you start really doing the research on this. Alright, so say Lewis and Clark expedition begins in the exploration of the West. So the exploration of the West. They started exploring the West at 1803. All right, who started exploring the West? We know, we say Louisiana Purchase, all right, but say the French territory, the United States. So that basically saying that Lewis and Clark worked for the United States and they started exploring the West so they could start taking over the West. All right, 1804 to 1806, Lewis and Clark expedition in Sacre, I can't pronounce that, say, under the direction of Preston Jefferson. Lewis and Clark charted the West Territories with the help of, whatever they say, a Shoshone Indian, I guess that's his name, a Shoshone Indian. All right, 1804. The Sucks meets Lewis and Clark expeditions. A trading post began to be established in the West. So it's a trading post began to be established in the West. See, they wasn't in the West first. They came west after. That's what they sent Lewis and Clark out there for. let me see something else. Let me just see something. Okay, yeah, that's what they sent Lewis and Clark out there for, man. Lewis, like they like when you read some of this stuff, it was telling you that they were sending missionaries out there to see if there was any other tribe. They was even sending other so-called Aborigines out there to see whether whether other tribes hostile or not, or whatever. So, you know, like I said, it's a lot of history with this, man. It's definitely a lot of history, man. Let me move along. Let me see if there's something I want to get into right here. Ah, man. I'm going to move through that. Let's see. Alright, so on February 8th, Russians who built the blockhouse on the High River Olympic Peninsula, Washington, was taken captive by the Hall Indians, and were held as slaves for 2 years. All right, say 1810. Say this treaty of Fort Wayne brought the Delaware, Potawatomi, Miami, and Potawatomi. This treaty of Fort Wayne brought the Delawares, Potawatomi, Miami, and the L River Miami Nation together see 3 million acres of their land along the Wabash River to the United States. All right, so now you see a lot of when you read through a lot of this stuff is saying that they bought a lot of this stuff or they purchased or whatever. How do you purchase? I guess at this point in time you see that they was using good or taking the gold and using it, and at this point in time a lot of these certain Indians we know was already Americanized. So the people who own a lot of these deeds probably sold their people out, like, I mean, you know what I'm saying, in so many different ways, man. I mean, I said, all right, Nicholas Biddle of Lewis and Clark expedition noted that among the Meaney Indians, the effeminate boys were raised as females. What the fuck? Let me write this down, man. Hold on, man. Let me write this shit down. Let me write this. I gotta do some research on this shit. Alright, because this is, remember, Lewis and Clark was in the Louisiana area. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like I said, man, there's a lot of weird shit be going on in Louisiana. We know the French was there. The French probably was a bunch of fucking freaks and probably introduced some of these Indian or some of the Aborigines into that. Alright? So one more time, Nicholas, let me write that one down, man. Damn, I want to write the Joker name, man. Hold up. Alright. Damn, see that shit? It said the French call them bird ashes. So the boys were met within married to older men. Wow, hold up, man. Let me read this one more time. Nicholas Biddle of Lewis and Clark expedition and say noted that among the Minnetonka Indians, the effeminate boys was raised as girls. Upon reaching puberty, the boys was married to older men. They say the French called them bad bird asses, man. Let me look that up too, man. Damn. I mean, maybe this might be speculation, man, but look, man, it's nothing new up under the sun, man. You already know, man. That's the reason why this shit is going on now, because of what's going on. So, let me get down right here, 1813, 1814. They say the Creek War was instigated by General Andrew Jackson, they say, who sought to end the Creek resistance and ceding their land. See, and ceding their land. They say to the United States government. See, it was all about killing these people and taking their land. The Creek Nation was defeated, and the Treaty of Fort Jackson, the Creek lost 14 million acres and 2/3 of their tribal land. To count the Creek death, white cut off their noses, pilling 557 of them. Damn, it's saying pilling. It's saying pilling 557. What the fuck? It said they also skinned them to the tan as a souvenir. Say this was a single largest cession of territory ever made in the Southeast. Wow. So hold up, man. Damn. Yeah, shit, man. Damn. This is what Andrew Jackson was doing. Okay. Okay. This is what Andrew Jackson was doing, and they got him on the dollar. I mean, they got him on the $20 bill, and then he was the president. And these are the people they look up to. 1815, Black and Creek Indians captured Fort Blunt, Florida, from Seminoles. It's saying used it as a haven for escaped slaves. Say as a base. Now remember, when they say escaped slaves, remember Indians were slaves. So at this point in time, we should already be more advanced to know when they say slaves, we don't know who they're talking about. Are they really talking about the few Africans that came here, or are they talking about the enslaved Indian or the enslaved Aborigines? Okay, it's saying American Indian detachment eventually recaptured the fort. It said on July 27th, the Seminole War began. On July 27th, Fort Blunt, a Seminole fort on Appalachia, whatever Bay, Florida, was attacked by U.S. troops. The fort held by 300 fugitive slaves and 220 Indians. So now the 300 fugitive slaves, okay, they could have been Indians. They could have been from anywhere on this land. They don't think that these people were slaves. Now, this is the reason why I read this, because it's to show you that there was Indian slaves, man. These people is lying. When they tell you the word slave, they want you to just believe that them was black people. That's the reason why they got Negroes and colored. Okay, so I mean, that's along the line, that means something too. We're going to get to that too. Okay, the fort was destroyed, punishing the Seminoles and harboring runaway slaves. Wow. 1817, Congress passed an Indian County Crime Act, providing that federal jurisdiction over crimes between non-Indians and Indians maintain exclusive tribal jurisdiction of all Indian crimes. Wow. Okay. 1818, on April 18, Andrew Jackson defeated the forces, Indian and African Americans, at the battle. Not saying the Indians and African. Remember, now check this out. Remember, y'all, they was already had Indian slaves here. I'm showing you in numerous different of these little whatever passages, they telling you that they had Indian slaves here. So now at this point in time, they saying that now they using the word African American to throw you off. Don't let these terms throw you off, because if you don't understand, okay, there was Indian slaves here first. Okay, there was Indian slaves in the Caribbean first. The Indians that they're talking about are really Negroes. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now he's saying defeated some of the Indian. Remember, they telling you that the Seminoles was runaway slaves, but they're not telling you that the Seminoles was are probably Aborigines already on this landmass. All right. So 1820, say by this year, more than 20,000 Indians live in virtual slavery on California missions, okay? On California missions, man. And they not telling you that there was Indian slaves. So they telling you that the Indians would not be slaves. Because now if you find out the Indian slaves, now you know that they lying about everything, okay? South Carolina settled there. Cherokee allied attack and defeated the Yamasee. The U.S. government began moving what is called the Five Civilized Tribes southeast America. It say the Cherokee, Creek, Seminole, Chickasaw, and Chickasaw. It say land to west of Mississippi. Now check this out, y'all. This is the reason why you see these so-called. It's the reason why you see a lot of these mongoloids into these tribes. Because when they moved them west of the Mississippi is where a lot of the Mongoloid and a lot of them people was living at. Them people wasn't in the southeast with us. They was not in the southeast. These people was, when they moved west of the Mississippi River is when these people took over a lot of their lands and a lot of things. What you see is what's going on now. Okay? Let me see. What's this? I mean, I definitely wanted to get this out. It's definitely a good read, man. Definitely got some good stuff in it, all right. 1824, the Indian Office Federal Agency was established by the Secretary of War and operating under administration of the War Department. The office becomes the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the BIA, in 1849. It's 1825, Creek Chief William McIntosh signed treaty ceding Creek land to the United States and agrees to vacate by 1826, and other Creek repudiate to treaty and kill them. Wow. Okay. Okay, say Creek in 1827, Creek Indians signed a second treaty ceding lands in the western Georgia. Now they saying that they signing all these treaties to give them the land and let them stay there or whatever. That's what they saying, that they signed the land. And you got to really start reading some of these treaties, man. You got to really get a real understanding. And the treaties is a story within itself. You know what I'm saying? When you start reading some of these treaties, it's saying, I'm gonna read this one more time. 1825, Creek Chief William McIntosh signed treaty ceding the Creek land to the U.S. and agrees to vacate. Now, at that point in time, this Chief William McIntosh or whatever might have been one of their implanted Masons at that point in time, the same way we seen Major Ridge. Okay, now I say and agrees to vacate by 1826. Say the other Creeks repudiate in the treaty and kills him. Okay, so they say the other Creeks say, yo, we're not doing this, and killed the fucking chief. And killed the chief. Said, no, we're not going nowhere. 1827, they say Creek Indians signed second treaty ceding the land in western Georgia. They say 1828. There you go, right there. Elijah Boutonat and the Sequoia began publishing the Cherokee Phoenix, and the first American newspaper published in the Native American language. 1829, the Creek Indians receive and relocate across the Mississippi River. Okay, 1830, they say on April 7, President Andrew Jackson submitted a bill calling for the removal of tribes in the east to the lands western Mississippi. On May 28th, the Indian Removal Act was passed, and from 1830 to 1840, thousands of Native Americans were forcibly removed. Now, it's not saying that Native Americans and slaves was moved or whatever. It's saying Native Americans. Alright, it's saying on September 15th, Chickasaw signed a treaty exchanging 8 million acres. So it's saying the Chickasaw signs a treaty. So you telling me, because what I'm starting to see is these treaties is basically giving land away, or these treaties is giving into what they're telling, is you're giving into what they're telling you to do. That's what, and I know I read a lot of these treaties or whatever, but like I said, when you gotta take it from a different approach, man. This is like one big puzzle, and like you have to now understand. I look at the treaties a totally different way now. Okay, and most of these treaties was signed by sellouts and people who sold them out. All right, so read that one more time. So on September 15th. The Chickasaw signed a treaty exchanging 8 million acres of land east of Mississippi for the land in Oklahoma. So they said they traded the land. Yeah, I should like sign right now. On December 22nd, state of Georgia made it unlawful for Cherokee to meet in council unless it was for the purpose of giving land to whites. What the fuck? Yo, do you see that shit? Okay, let me read that one more time. See, on December 22nd, the state of Georgia made it unlawful for Cherokees to meet in council unless it was for the purpose of giving lands to whites. Oh man, I can stop it right there. 1831 to 1832, the U.S. Supreme Court changes the nature of tribal sovereignty by ruling that Indian tribes was not foreign nations, but rather were domestic dependent nations. As such, both cases provided the bias for the federal protection of Indian tribes on a federal trust relationship and responsibility. That's the one they broke. Alright, so 1831, the Black Hawks and Sauk and Fox tribes agreed to move west of Mississippi. So my thing is this, right? Why are these people agreeing to give up their land to foreigners? Like, you know what I'm saying? Cherokee Nation versus Georgia. So the Cherokee Nation sued the state of Georgia for passing laws and enacted policies that not only limited their sovereignty, but which were forbidden in Constitution. The court's decision proclaimed the Indians were neither U.S. citizens nor independent state, but rather domestic dependent nations whose relationship to the U.S. resembled that of a ward to his guardian. Wow. It's saying in this case the federal trust responsibility was to discuss for the first time. Let me hold on. Let me write that shit down right there. Damn. Oh man, you reading through this right here, ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean keep saying man or whatever, but ladies and gentlemen, man, you keep reading through this stuff, man. This stuff is deep. And this is not even a book, you know, this is just certain quotes and certain passages probably took and summarized from other books. Alright, so let me read that one more time. It say the Cherokee Nation sued the state of Georgia for passing laws and enacting policies that not only limit their sovereignty, but which were forbidden in the Constitution. The court's decision proclaimed that Indians were neither U.S. citizens. Okay, they not U.S. citizens. Okay, same thing Dred Scott. Remember? Now remember, Dred Scott wasn't a citizen because they said he was a slave. Now what happens to these displaced tribes? And when these tribes are displaced from their family, what happened to them? Then what are they? Then what are they? Now you catching my drift. Now we got something. When the trial war happened, we know that these people had slaves, and they showing you that they had Indian slaves. So now, what happened to them Indian slaves? What are they called now? What are they classified as now? Because if the Indian slaves forgot their culture, they wouldn't even know that they was Indian. And that's the fucking thing. And you telling me they had slaves, but yet they not telling you that they had Indian slaves here too, and white slaves. All right. Alright, so it said the court's decision proclaimed that the Indians was neither United States citizen nor independent nation, but rather were domestic dependent nation whose relationship to the United States resembled that of a ward to his guardian. Okay? A ward to his guardian, man. A ward to his guardian, saying in case the federal trust responsibility was discussed for the first time. Wow. Okay? 1831. So on December 6th, President Andrew Jackson, in his third annual message to Congress, praised the beneficial results of Indian removal for the states directly affected, and the Union, it say the Union as a whole, as well as being equal advantages is, it say, to the Indians. It say on December 25th, a force of black Seminole Indians defeated U.S. troops at the Okeechobee during the Second Seminole War. Okay. All right. So let's say Westchester. Say Westchester versus Georgia. Say missionary from Vermont who was working on Cherokee territory sued the state of Georgia, which had arrested him, claiming that the state had no authority over him within the boundaries of the Cherokee Nation. The courts, which ruled in Westchester's favor, held the state laws did not extend to Indian country, such as a ruling classified that tribes were under the protection of federal government in Cherokee versus Georgia, the one we just read. So on July 23rd, Eastern Cherokee met the Red Clay, Tennessee, to discuss President Jackson's proposal for their removal in the Indian territory. So he basically moved. Basically, this is what happened. Okay, now I got it. Now I fucking got this shit. Okay, remember. All right, think of it like this, right? This is what I'm thinking. Most of the Indians in the East, like Massachusetts, Connecticut, and all of them, I think all of them submitted at that point in time, and they was Christianized, but they still was allowed to be Indians. Most of the tribes that was in like North Carolina, because remember when we start in VA. North Carolina is right next to VA. If not, we can still call Virginia North Carolina if we want. Okay, so North Carolina right there. So he's saying that the Cherokee Nation, I'm starting to think that might have been part of the Powhatan, because when they said Powhatan had the biggest freaking tribe. So I'm thinking that maybe it might have went from the Powhatan to Cherokee, or it's a branch of the Powhatan, or it's a branch of the Cherokee, or it was another name all in together, to where we really might have to do some research. Do not quote me on that. I'm just assuming, because if you look, Virginia's small. So for Powhatan to have 32 tribes in the area, that must mean he had tribes in that region of what we call North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. He had to. Okay? So, where was I at? Alright, so Ray Clay, Tennessee, to discuss. And remember, Tennessee was part of North Carolina too. Discuss President Jackson's proposal for the removal of Indian territory in present-day Oklahoma. The proposal was rejected, and Cherokee refused to negotiate unless the federal government honored the previous treaty promises. Alright, so boom. So look, it say the Cherokee refused to negotiate unless the federal government honored the previous treaty promises. On August 2nd, some 150 Sac and Fox men and women and children under the flag of truce was massacred at Bad Axe River. They got a lot of fucking crazy names. Bad Axe River by Illinois militia. Okay, by Illinois militia. You see, on 1833, militia. Okay, 1833. Saying on January 12th, a law was passed making it unlawful for Indians to remain within the boundaries of the state of Florida. So they was moving these people off the land, man. That's the reason how these other people was able to come swoop in and then claim what was not theirs. Okay, and that's the reason why they got so much easy going with them. All right. Yo, this is interesting right here, man. I'm gonna stop it right here. I'm gonna stop it at 1834, and I'm gonna continue this, man. This is definitely interesting. I'm definitely interested in reading the rest of this. All right, so I'm gonna stop it right here. I'm gonna make another video probably later on or tomorrow. But definitely, man, y'all definitely do some research on this. I think we covered some pretty interesting stuff. It's not from different books, but it do give you time, and it do give you other sources and resources that you can look up. All right. So this is the article: Native American Indian Timeline, 1492 to 1990. It says the Latin Library.com Imperial Notes, the Native American art from whatever. Excuse me. So you wanna look this up, whatever, definitely look it up, definitely load this up, save it, and you know what I'm saying, and research it, because a lot of this stuff is stuff that I couldn't cover. It would take me books and books and books to get a lot of this information out of me. So I stopped at 1834. I stopped at 1834, and I'm gonna continue at 1834 when I start. All right. So with that being said, peace to everybody. I am the Tonsils one. Peace.